Welcome for study of Sotah, page 28, Daf Chav Ches, Omer Aleph. So the Gemara now begins after yesterday's long Mishnah, where we talk about the way the water checks her, it also checks him. So now we're trying to probe, what does it mean it checks him? What do you mean oisai? If we're talking about it checks the husband, what did he do? He's actually the victim. He is not the someone who did any action. So if you say, it's telling us that if he has a sin, the meaning that he was with her after she was with this man, and he's not supposed to be with her until she gets checked, because if she actually had any relations, she is forbidden to him. So if he was with her, then the water doesn't even check her, because the water only checks when they weren't together. So obviously we must say that we're talking about the boil, the one who she was with. And when she gets checked, he gets checked. So if so, the Gemara asks the question, why don't we say clearly it's the boil, it's the one who had relations with her? So we said because we use the term Isa, we use the term Isahim. Later, at a sefer, we use the word the Baal, we use the word boil. So meaning it's a term, it's an idea of language that's used, but obviously it must be a term of the boil because it can't be the husband, because then she's not checked as well as him if they had relations afterwards. So now we learn, why do we know that both the Baal and the Boil are both forbidden? So it says, how do we know the Baal and the Boil are both being punished? And they're both forbidden. If she doesn't want to drink, they're actually both forbidden. It says, So we had a question. Do we know that she's forbidden to the one she had relations with if she admits or she doesn't want to drink from the extra word, the vav, uvo, and they came, or by the double word, bo. So we had the Gemara goes into it, and it says that she's forbidden for the husband, like she's forbidden for the husband, the same way she's forbidden the one she had relations with, because it says nitva v'nitma. So again, we have the same question: is it twice the word nitma she became defiled, or is it the word v'nitma and she became defiled? So we said, look in the Sefer, it says twice, it says in the Torah, v'nitma, one for the Baal, one for the Baal. So we see the Rabbi Kiva says it's for the next word, v'nitma. Why does it say not just nitma, v'nitma, one for the Baal and one for the Baal? That they both get checked. So from here we see the Rabbi Kiva, when every time it says extra vav at the beginning of a word, he is derish to learn something new. So according to Rabbi Kiva, there's sort of 6 statements here, because we're saying 3 statements for the woman. One is that first it will hit her stomach, and then it will hit her womb and her thigh and her uterus. So that's the way it ultimately will happen. The other one is that Hashem commands it should happen. And one is the actual action that happens. So because Rabbi Akiva says we take the vav and we learn something else from the vav, so we're talking both for the man and the women. We're talking about for the man and the women. According to Rabbi Akiva, it only says 3 times. One for her. The one the Torah says this is the way it's going to happen. Because one place in the Torah it says the first her thighs will be hit, and then her stomach. But in reality, her stomach was the one that went first, then her thighs. So therefore, the Torah says that's the way it'll happen. Hashem commands it should happen, and actually, what happened? So according to Rabbi, how do we know that the Baal, the one who had relations with her, gets checked as well? So he says, we learn it from the word litzba is bet v'lam that says that her stomach will explode and her thigh will fall down. So we say, because it says an extra one, we know it's referring not only to hers but someone else. Who's the someone else? The one she had relations with. So he says, maybe we're just talking about hers. He says the fact that it says twice. Why do we say twice? So one for him and one for her. So how come we don't say clearly bet and yerech of his? But it's also coming to tell us that the stomach goes before the thighs, because that's the way it actually happens. I don't want to say that the Torah is lying. So how come the Torah doesn't just say for her bitna virecha hers? She says that just like bet and yerech, it tells us of the one who she had relations with. A bitna virechai, and doesn't say bitna virechai his, because it teaches us both him and both her, and that hers, the stomach goes first. So Rabbi Yeshua said Three times it says in the Torah, nitma, nitma, nitma. Three times it says that they should become defiled. Why? One is that the husband, one is for the, well, she's not forbidden to be with the husband. She's forbidden to be with one she has a relationship. She's forbidden if she's married to a kohen, eat any more trum. This is Rabbi Kiva says. Rabbi Shmuel says, I have a kal v'chomer. I learned from something easy. I learned something more difficult. That just like a woman who gets divorced, a daughter of a kohen who gets divorced, and she has no children. So she's not allowed to marry a kohen anymore, but she can still eat truma. But this woman that is not allowed to eat truma, for sure she can't marry to a kohen. Later we're going to ask a question how this comes into this whole story. Now the Gemara begins a new thing. Why does it say v'initva and she does become defiled? V'initva she doesn't. So we said if she became defiled, why should she drink? She's obviously forbidden. She didn't become defiled. Why doesn't she? Why does she drink at all? The Torah tells us that that's exactly the point. The whole idea of Sotah is that we're not sure, and because we're not sure, she becomes forbidden until it's clarified. So from here we learn for other laws in Tumah, sherets. Sherets are small, creepy creatures that just like a Sotah, where in a Sotah, Shoigig is not kamezid. If it was a mistake or if she was forced, she's not forbidden to her husband. But yet, if it's a suffix, we're not sure anything happened, she's forbidden until it's clarified as if she did it. So sheret, where there, whether you touch the sheret, whether you touch this impure thing, both intentionally or unintentionally, or by force or not, you become tamei. So for sure, if it's a suffix, if you touch the sheret, you for sure become tamei. So we can ask a question, but a Sotah only happens in the Rishus Yach, in the private domain, where they can be in hiding. So also, Sheret should only be this law that a suffix, that we're not sure, it should be tamei only in the private domain. But then you can ask a question, but a Sotah is also a woman. You can ask her, did you have any relations with the person or not? So also Sheret, you have to talk to someone. It's not like something got in touch with the Sherets in the question of his tamei. Only a person that you can ask. So therefore, the bottom line we said was that only something that has the ability to answer if they became tamei or not, and in Rishus HaYachid is the suffix is tamei. In Rishus Harabim, it is tahir. But if they don't have, meaning so there's someone who has the ability to ask the difference between Rishus Yachid and the parliament. Someone who doesn't have the ability to ask, both in the parliament and the private domain, they are tahir because you have to be able to ask. Now we're going back to the same we said before. Rabbi Shmuel told Rabbi Akiva that just like a woman who's married to a kohen gets divorced, if she's is daughter of a kohen, she can go back and eat truma even though she can't be married to a kohen. So this woman who can't eat truma for sure can't be married to a kohen. But how does this come into here? Rabbi Akiva is talking about truma. How does the idea of if she can marry a kohen or not after she became a Sotah or she didn't want to drink? How could this? Or he died before she got to drink. How could this happen? And also, how does Rabbi Akiva know that she's not allowed to marry a kohen? So are you going to say you don't need a verse because the Torah says that if it's a suffix, that she becomes like a zayna. She becomes like a harlot if it's a suffix. If it's a suffix, she becomes like a harlot. Yeah, it becomes like a harlot. So if you made it like a suffix, so therefore you don't need a verse to teach about the Kemer kohen. So then why do you need a verse for truma? Because the same thing, if the zayna, that she cannot eat truma. She becomes forbidden to her husband the kohen, she cannot eat truma. So like actually to Rabbi Akiva, there are four verses. One that she's forbidden to the husband, one she's forbidden to the one she had relations with, one she's forbidden to marry a kohen after her husband dies, and one that she is forbidden to eat truma. Rabbi Shmuel says there are three verses. The one for the husband, one she's forbidden to the one she had relations with, the one she's forbidden for truma. And how do we know she's allowed to marry a kohen? And the kal v'chomer we brought before. So how do we know, according to Rabbi Shmuel, that the third verse is coming to tell us truma? Maybe it's telling us she's not allowed to marry a kohen, but she can still eat truma. So he says there's probably when the Torah writes something three times, they're all similar. Just like the law that she's forbidden to her husband and to one she relations while they're alive, so too truma is while he's still alive if he's a kohen. But the law of marrying another kohen is only after the husband dies, so therefore it doesn't fall into this category. So for that we have a kal v'chomer. Rabbi Akiva says we don't learn the Torah this way. Every time there's a prohibition, each one is its own prohibition. And or some say that something that you can learn in the kal v'chomer, the Torah writes a verse. That's why the Torah says truma. The Torah says truma, and obviously a kohen as well. So this is where the end of today's page.